Sean, why don't you talk us through the Raiders-Browns game?
Yeah, so we are concerned again with wind for this game, and that's going to be the theme for most of our games this week. We are expecting at least 20 mile an hour sustained, maybe up to 25 plus sustained, maybe even localized higher gusts for this game. Those winds are going to be parallel to the stadium. Our stadium is basically right on Lake Erie. And so the winds are going to be orientated going either quarterbacks are going to be going against the wind or with the wind, essentially. What's interesting about winds in Cleveland is QBs seem to be unusually impacted in Cleveland. Now, with that being said, we got to think about some of the QBs that usually we have in Cleveland, right? The sample size for that is usually a little bit below average for our QBs. But with that being said, we have David Carr, we have Baker Mayfield in this one. We don't have a large sample size for either one of these, but when we looked at David Carr, he didn't seem to have a huge impact due to wind. But I am a little bit worried about looking at a Cleveland location right along the lake. I think these can be impactful. I'm a little bit worried about people like or players like Ruggs this week who have a larger average depth of target. I don't know if David Carr, I'm as confident in him getting the ball downfield. I'd be much happier having like a Nelson Aguilar, who's priced about $200 cheaper. I expect him to be a little bit more, getting the ball on the run a little bit more than potentially a Ruggs. On the other side of the ball, Baker Mayfield, he's at home. The Las Vegas Raiders are ranked number 28 in their passing defense. So I expect him to be able to pass the ball this game. I expect his upside to be a little bit limited if conditions get really windy and maybe relying a little bit more on Kareem Hunt. So I think Kareem Hunt's going to be involved both in the passing and rushing game this week. Is definitely to have his attempts, maybe north of 5 attempts and maybe target at least 5 to 6 targets this game. He's priced at $6,900, but I'm willing to pay up for him this week. I'm playing him this week. Las Vegas is ranked number 15 on the defensive end for rushing, but I'm confident in him. Between receivers on Cleveland, we have Higgins, we have Landry. I'm still thinking Jarvis Landry. He hasn't had really high point totals this year, but you can count on the targets. So I don't know, guys. What do you think? Let's say I didn't really mention Josh Jacobs' notice because I really don't know what to do with Josh Jacobs. He is either an incredibly boom or bust candidate. He's either getting 2 or 3 touchdowns a game or nothing. And he hasn't eclipsed the 100-yard mark, I don't believe yet. So in a matchup against the number 5 ranked rushing defense of the Cleveland Browns, who would you take here? Speaking of running backs from the Green Bay game, would you take a Williams priced at $6,100, or would you go with Josh Jacobs on the chance that he gets the TD and go with him at $6,200?
I'm going to save the $100 and go with Williams.
Yeah, it's only $100. Exactly.
I struggle with Josh Jacobs this week. He's the lowest he's been all year on DFS. I mean, in week 3, he was at $7,300. He's down $1,000 now. He's a discounted price. But as you mentioned, Sean, he had a horrible game in week 7 against Tampa Bay. But don't forget, at Kansas City on week 5, he still put up 22 fantasy points. So he has some – I see some – he's limited with his knee, so maybe there's some injury concerns there. I think that Jacobs could be a decent play this week, even though he hasn't had a great week last week. He's coming off a bad week last week. I'm not too worried yet. I think he's going to have a decent floor in this game.
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit worried about his floor. I was hoping he would get more involved in the passing game this year. He is getting some targets, don't get me wrong. I expected those to be a little bit more prevalent, especially in a windy game when they may need to do some more just dropping off the ball short. I'm not confident he's going to be getting those necessarily as consistently as I would like. And we've seen how he's done against tough defenses like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week. Where I think he only got 17 yards. So I'm a little bit worried if the Las Vegas Raiders struggle to get in the red zone, where that's where he thrives, is in the red zone. I'm worried about his floor for this game a bit.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's him. And if we go to the receivers, how are you feeling about Rashard Higgins now that OBJ is out? Mike, you're an OBJ owner, or you were an OBJ owner. How are you feeling about that situation now?
I feel relieved. I do. I have to be honest. Like I've been having OBJ for a couple of years now, ever since he was traded, and he's just been the thorn in my side every year. I think he's single-handedly destroyed my fantasy team. So you never want to see a guy get hurt, right? He is a talent. He was great in the Giants, but now that he's out, he's hurt. He's out for the season. It makes me feel a little relieved in the sense that I don't have to sit there and bite my nails off, wondering if he's gonna, get a 3-point dud or a 60-point performance, which is far and few in between. So I'm feeling pretty good about cutting ties.
But what do you think about Higgins then taking kind of over here? A lot of people picked him up as a waiver wire pickup. Are you thinking him at 4,200? Or are you willing to pay up a little bit more for Landry at 5,600?
Well, we saw Mayfield spread it out last week, and it seemed like he was trying to force feed the ball to OBJ a lot, throughout the time where OBJ was playing. So I think Mayfield actually probably feels a little pressure taking off his shoulders here. He's going to feel a little bit more inclined to be able to spread the ball out. Higgins at a $4,200 price point in DFS. That's not too bad. I think he's gonna return on that value there. And as you mentioned, Landry is going to be a safe option here, getting targets as well.